CICD project. It is the passenger. So here I have my code. I have a class set up for passenger with objects in it. I have title, name, ID, phone number, age, and then I have a constructor here just to build a passenger. And then I have a bunch of setters and getters. So basically I write my code. So here when I start off, I wouldn't write this code here because this is for failure. I'd only write for success because that's what I was testing for at the start. So here I'd write enough code so when I went and tested, I could pass my test or fail my test depending on what I want to do, but I was wanted to pass it. So here I have an if statement. You have 3 possible outcomes for the title: Mr., Mrs., or Miss. So here we check what the user inputted, and if it was between Mr., Mrs., and Miss, then title would be created. So when I go over here, I test for all 3. So I test for Mr., Mrs., and Miss. So here, Mr., Mrs., Miss. So it expects these, runs over here, checks them in the if statement, realizes their value, possible outcomes, realizes that these are the right titles, and it creates the title then. So when I test for failure, I create a passenger like with all my successes and failures. The passenger here, the input is miss, so this is incorrect. Realizes this as in the else statement. It realizes that it is in one of these 3 outcomes, jumps to this else statement, throws this argument, and it prints this message into the screen. So when a user, and that's basically it for a lot of them. So basically for all of them I would have a new passenger, and for my successes I make sure that everything is correct, and then title, name, ID, everything is correct, and that way a name is then created here in my successful name. Here in my failure name, everything is correct except for the name. So the name is OJ. It's not 3 characters long like it was said in the assignment. So here it jumps to this. I have a count variable which goes through the length of the string. So OJ, it counts it. So for the first time Connor passed because Connor's over 3 characters or equal to 3 characters, and then the name is created. So for OJ it's 2, so it counts it 2, realizes it, goes down to this else statement and throws this argument, and then the message is printed to the screen telling them that the name has to be greater than 3 characters long. So that's for all my string characters, say ID and phone number. I did the same for phone number and ID simply because I had phone number as an integer, and I basically removed this line of code and just had it as if phone number is less than 6, then phone number is created. But when I would go to test for phone number, if I want to fail the phone number check, say I put in just 7 in here, so say I put in 7, and that would pass the test, or it would basically pass, it wouldn't create a failure because 7, it was looking at the phone number and it said, okay, well the user put in 7. 7 can obviously not be a phone number, it's 1 digit, but 7 was greater than 6, so the phone number was created. So I made it so the everything was basically strings except for age, because age I only have to test for anything below 16. So that's why everything is string except for age. Yeah, so here I test everything for successes and everything then for failures. So if I go into my package file, so if I run this Maven and jcoco, you'll see as I go down here, open Chrome, you'll see here that everything's covered. So it goes through every possibility, success and failure. So in my title, like, everything is tested. So that way I know that every possible outcome is done. So here I have before in my title I only tested for Mr., not Mr., Mrs., and Mrs. in my test file, and that's why I missed some. So yeah, so that's my project, and that's how it works.